What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something a bit different, but before I get started I want to talk about the elephant in the room, aka these sick Hexagon style lights. They're really cool. I just refurbished this garage. I've always wanted these lights, and to make it more worth it for me, I went ahead and ordered a ton of them, so now I actually distribute them myself, and I warranty them myself too. If you've been interested in these lights in the past, you've probably seen them, you may have had a lot of questions. I'm stoked to actually be able to answer those questions. So if you want them, I'm going to put the link to my eBay ad in the description below. I'm also gonna put my email and my Instagram account if you wanna hit me up, ask any questions, any concerns, stuff like that. Just let me know. If you feel more comfortable with eBay, you can buy that way. If you wanna buy through me directly, I can cut the cost a little bit. Even the eBay ad is cheaper than you'll find anywhere else. And if you look at them, they're pretty dope. I painted the ceilings black, painted the walls, did some cool stuff. I really like them. But let's move on to the topic of today's video. So as the title states, we're gonna swap the front end on this truck. It's a 2017 Super Duty, and we're gonna swap it to the 2020 plus front end. So 2020, 21, and 22, they all look like this, where they have a little different slant here rather than the shape you have there. And then in this case, if you have seen a video on how to do this already, the main difference is I'm running the Morimoto XP headlights. These are quad projector headlights. They've got 4 low beam projectors, 2 bi-LED high beam projectors. And I just think they look sick. Now Morimoto does make a 2017 to 19 headlight that bolts right in, so you don't have to change grills or any of that stuff. But I just don't really care for them. They look a bit cheap, and I feel like they took a lot of feedback and they made a much better headlight for the 2020 and later models, which is what we have here. So of course, with buying the new lights, which do cost the same price, I might add, they're $1,950 for these lights. It's $1,950 for the 2017 lights. So same money for the lights, however, you do have to buy a new grill. Now this grill is a platinum grill. It was $1,300 from Ford. Then I had to buy the badges with the camera hole, which think about that. If you're buying yours, just make sure you have a provision for that if needed. It did come with a rear badge for the tailgate, and it's brushed aluminum, so I don't have to paint it or anything. I like this finish, so I save time. I can just bolt it up. I don't have to worry about scuffing it and prepping it and shooting it with white paint or black paint or whatever. It's just ready to go. So that's nice. And then lastly, you need a header panel. Now these are like $200 on eBay. This is not an OEM part, but it bolts on to the OEM radiator support of the truck behind all this stuff, and it allows you to mount the headlights properly. To get started, we're just gonna pull all these clips right here and get this upper section off. Then we're gonna pull the grill out here, and then each headlight will come off. The new headlights will go in. They're plug and play if you had a halogen truck. If you had an LED truck, they say they don't work. I'm sure it can be done, but it's just not as simple and straightforward, so they're probably not liable, that kind of thing. Anyway, headlights will plug right in. New grill will go on. We'll swap the camera stuff over and we should be done. Should be really, really straightforward. Let's get started. So first we're gonna pull all these clips off, and there's gonna be some people that don't love the way that I do this. This is what I got. This is what we're gonna use. We're gonna use these little flatheads right here, work our way up. Try not to bend it or break it off. You can see it lifts up out of there, pulls right out. Now I'm gonna jump around and just pull all of these clips out, and then this top piece will come off and it'll expose the rest of the hardware so we can figure out how to get this grill out of the way. I got that clip out. I'm conscious of where my intake is. I'm not pulling on that duct too crazily. And this just lifts right off. This hood latch is gonna get in the way, so you wanna come up and then come forward like that. Now that that's out of the way, you can see the grill, where it attaches to the header panel and where the header panel attaches to the steel. We're gonna go ahead and start pulling all these bolts off. They look like 10 millimeters, don't hold me to that. There's a bunch of clips that hold it in around the bottom and the sides. And we'll be, I don't know, 50% done already. Upon further investigation, I can confirm that these are all 10 millimeter headed bolts. Now, the top ones are not the same as the bottom ones. Now they look similar, but they're not. The threads are quite a bit different, so don't mix them up. You can see here, comparison, if you do this fast and you try to be sick, you might fuck it up and misplace your bolts. And these will not go in here, you'll cross thread it, and then you'll wanna, don't do it, don't do that. So once you have all of these bolts out of this top header panel here and the grill and on all that shit, you can pull the grill off. Keep in mind that you can sell this thing, so don't destroy it if you don't have to, because it's worth some money. Grab the big sections where they're nice and strong. Grab here and pull out. You'll hear the clips pop out. Then same thing goes for the other side. Now once you get it off, don't do anything with it, just let it float there, because you still gotta disconnect your camera and maybe some radar stuff, I don't know. There's some wires going to the back of this big Ford emblem, so just wait a second and let it sit there. It's that way we can look in from the top and see what needs to be disconnected. This plastic piece right here will come right off. There's 2 T25 Torx bolts here and here. These 2 pieces are separate. The camera is separate from this module here. You can see it like pulls in and out, and it's that rectangular piece on the front of the grill there. So what you do is very gently pull it this way and hold your finger here so you can get a little slack out of it. Go forward, rotate it, and then turn it,
and you can pull it through. Be very careful not to break it off, because it's probably expensive, just like all this other stuff. There we go. So just set this over there. I'm sure I'm gonna regret this being chrome because it's probably not gonna work with the other one. But anyway, then the camera will just kind of plop out. Set those two things aside. Make sure you set the camera face down so you don't scratch the front of the lens. Mine's already really, really foggy, but I don't wanna make it any worse than it is. So I set it out of the way and the grill will come off completely. These clips might have like kind of hooked themselves. So just pull the grill off and go throw it in the trash. Now we can pull the headlight off. So we've got a 10 mil bolt on the top right here. We've got one here, one here. Don't worry about that one. That's an adjuster bolt. You don't have to remove that one. And then you've got one right here in the worst spot possible. So you don't have to pull the bumper, but you have to use an open end wrench. And it's literally like right off the corner here and just below that edge. Now, a lot of guys will say if you bought a truck built on a Friday, the bumper sags enough that you can get in here with an impact and like an extension. That's not the case with this setup. It fits really tight. But what you can do is pull this down, or what I like to do is put it forward, and I'll get in here with a light and show you a little more in depth, but you come through here with an open end and you turn it about 1,000 times and you get the one bolt out and you can pull the headlight out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling these bolts out, get this light off, pull the other side off, and then we can get this header panel out. I put a wrench in the bolt and you can kind of get an idea where it's at, but it's really far up there. It's doable for sure. It's a lot of very short cranks with this wrench. If you have a gear wrench, you can try it. My gear wrench was too big in outside diameter to make this work, but that's where it's at. So best of luck to you. I'm gonna pull this one off and then we will move on to the header panel. The light should come out after this one's removed. That bolt's out. All the other ones are already out, as you saw. So we can pull it and it should pop out. Again, one-handed makes it a little bit harder, but I think, there we go. And then you just gotta disconnect it. So go ahead and unplug all of the various headlight plugs and let them sit there. All right, I got that headlight off. I pulled that headlight off too. And we can move on to the header panel. So we've got a 13 mil headed bolt. It might actually be standard, but 13 mil works. I pulled these two bolts out. You've got two more bolts over here. I haven't removed these yet. It's starting to get a little bit looser. And then you've got a couple of accessories like the horns right here. We're gonna wanna pull this bolt out. And it looks like a 10 mil. And then things like this, when you go to pull this header panel off, you don't want these to fall down and hit the condenser and damage these fins. Same goes for the camera module over here. Mine's been hanging that way. So just kind of look around and check for anything that may be stuck or holding you up. Another thing is that these wiring harnesses, they pop in with these little tabs. You're gonna wanna pull these out with like a flathead, same as we did the top clips here. One more thing to note, this small line right here that I believe goes to the front sensor here, runs across the back and then it comes up and goes over and there's all these clips. So just a flathead here and lift up. They should pop right off, be gentle. Don't forget to take those off before you try to pull the panel.
All right, fast forward to the next day. I had to go buy a different header panel. The one that I thought was correct, the one I showed you in the video, was actually wrong. And if you've done this before and you're not watching to learn how to do it, you already knew that and it was probably pretty funny. So yeah, I bought the wrong panel. The one I bought on eBay was for a 17 to 19, not a 20 to 22 model, and that's just a mistake that happens sometimes. That panel was 200 bucks. Ford sells it for $550 directly at the dealership if they have them in stock. I found them online for about $330 plus shipping. Depending on your shipping options, you may be able to get it for under $400 delivered to your house. But I needed it today because I obviously had this entire truck ripped apart. So I went ahead and picked one up. It was 450 bucks out the door with tax. They were able to work with me a little bit on that $500 plus price. Not a ton, but it's better than nothing. So with all that said, let's look at the differences so I can show you what not to do or what not to miss when you're wondering if you have the right header panel. Here's our OEM replacement that's wrong, and here is the brand new 2020 Plus. So you can see this is an OEM Ford part, so you know it's right, but also the immediate differences are gonna be the little wing that's not on this one that you can see here. And then if you look down here, there's a couple of different changes. So we have a little slit on this one. We don't over here. And then of course the headlight mounting is slightly different. So cool. There's one more thing we have to do. With the header panel sitting in here, I do have the top locator pins in, so this is roughly where it's gonna sit. We need to make a couple changes over here. We gotta trim this little locator tab off. It's not necessary anymore. We've got two huge bolts on both sides.
I'm sure it's nice when you're setting it in, but we don't need it. And then it looks like we're gonna have to trim this area out just a hair because the height of this seems to be taller than the gap we got here. We're gonna have to go down a little bit more. So we may have to trim that out with an angle grinder or something like that. And then lastly, we have this small little pin there, and you can see it's way off from that hole. Another test fit. With those things trimmed out, it does fit a lot better, but you can tell they're still not bottoming out all the way down, and it's not from here, although I could clearance that a little bit better. It is this piece here. So I'm gonna come back and cut this little corner off right there on both sides, and then we should be able to have a panel that fits all the way flush down there. So it's all trimmed out, fits really well. You can see it's very close, but it's not touching anywhere except where it needs to. Right here, it's bottomed out. I did take these pins off, they weren't needed. And everything looks very factory-esque now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the horn back on, get all the wiring harnesses routed instead of just hanging like this for the camera, and the other sensor that I didn't know what it was, that's the automatic wipers, I'm pretty certain. So get that relocated here so that it can be installed on the grill. And then we can get to the headlights. So we're getting there, we're getting close. So I got the horns on, I got the wiring on, I got the wiper thing on, I got all this stuff on, and I took a few hours to do a couple other things. I'm actually installing an intake at the same time, which is irrelevant to this video, but I wanted to free up some space here. There was some wiring and some weird stuff going on here, and I didn't exactly know what that was. So headlight wiring is obviously a lot cleaner now. What matters is getting the lights on and seeing how well they fit. Now that I have all this open space here, this should be plug and play. Let's give it a go and see what happens, and then we can get the rest of our header panel hardware installed. So I got my light sitting in position here, and I've got everything plugged in. It's all OEM plug and play stuff, except you will have two of these 3-pin connectors. One that's got a black lead here, and the other one has a gray lead right here. Use the black one, and then just take this one and tape it up with electrical tape. What I like to do is run it from here across and down, and then I wrap the outside quite a bit, just to keep water and stuff out of this thing, in case you ever go back to your factory lights for some reason. And then we're gonna set this back there. But before we actually do that, we wanna just kind of let this hang for a second. Now be very careful if this thing tips forward, even if it doesn't fall because it's plugged in, it will scratch the face of the light on the bumper or something like that. We gotta run the DRL harness. So I've already got my other light sitting over there. It's already plugged in, ready to go. It's not bolted in yet because I'm gonna lift it back out to plug in the DRL wiring. But you should have had a harness like this that was included with your kit, and it's kind of laid out loosely how it's gonna go. So that goes to our fuse box back here on the passenger side of the firewall. This is gonna go to our passenger light. That goes to our driver's side light. You can see essentially the routing. It's obviously gonna sit a lot cleaner, but this is just so that I make sure that my connectors are in their respective positions. Little fuse tap here, it's gonna go to spot 35 in the fuse box, and then we're gonna figure out the cleanest way to route it. To explain that a little bit further, there's a small row of mini fuses right here. This is number 35, this is the one you wanna use. Unfortunately, they did not give me the extension that they talk about in their install video, so I just stuck that in there to hold it in place for the moment. But this needs to go right there, or possibly like this, either way. But it doesn't reach without the extender that they failed to include for me. So hopefully you have yours. That's where it's gonna go. I'm just gonna kind of lock it in place for a minute, and then I'll run the rest of this harness. And then we can plug them in the backs, mount the lights, install the grill, and if you're not doing an intake, you're done. Because I don't have the extender on the tap, I left a bunch of slack here that I can tuck inside this area later. But I wanted everything else to be tight. So I ran it behind all this stuff, down here to the back of the light. I ran it down below here, up through this, and then across the bottom of this harness. You can see I got a zip tie there, so on and so forth, all the way across. And then I got over to here and I ran down and then up and plugged into the back of this light. Now we can bolt the headlights in. We've got this one here, this one here. These are for the grill. These are not bolt holes. That one right there, that's another grill locating tab, and then we have the one inside the fender if you choose to run that one, which you should. And then we can put the grill on. Got my driver's side tight, passenger side's tight. We're ready to install the grill. If you have a new emblem like this and it's not installed yet, I just put these nuts on here. You can see there's 2 studs there, 1 stud over there. These nuts actually cut threads into these plastic studs, and they don't include them, so I had to pull them from the other grill, which is frustrating because I want to sell that one. So you may need to order these, just keep that in mind. I'm gonna get these pins lined up here. I've got some nuts set aside for these studs. I'm gonna locate it on here and set this up with my camera and my rain sensor. But we're on the home stretch, grill's about to go on. I'm gonna throw it in the tripod and we can wrap this project up. And lastly, one fatal flaw in my storyline. The old OEM badge does fit the grill. They do look different in size. It's probably just because of the way the black is against the chrome. Anyhow, I do not wanna run this one. I obviously wanna run this one. However, you can see that that shape is different right there. And the mounting is actually different on the back too. So when you go to mount this right here to that assembly, it does not work right. So for right now, I'm gonna put this one back on. Pains me to do it, but I'm over waiting and spending more money. So right now, we're just gonna deal with this. So this one's going on, and it'll all bolt back together just like it should. Cool story. Just when you thought I couldn't forget anything else, these lower bolt holes, I put the grill on with that bolt in. The lower headlight bolt, take that bolt out. I already did it off camera, but just know that it happened. So right there is a bolt hole. You're gonna have a bolt come in from the front. Pull it out first, so don't have that headlight completely bolted in. Get the grill in place. Then we can take these bolts and go right there. So it's now the following day. I got my lower bolts in. I do need to figure out which little cap goes over that to hide that hole there. I haven't figured that out yet, but I will post the part number for that in the description below, as well as all the other part numbers and the places to find these things. It's 99% complete. Now I might change the front bumper out. You might too if you're trying to do an entire 2020 plus conversion. It's not a huge difference to me. I do want this bumper to be white, but outside of that, I don't think it's a massive upgrade in the sense of aesthetics. But hopefully this was easy for you or made things a lot easier for you to swap your front end out, and I hope you're happy with the results. I think it looks massively better. I know it's a small change, but for some of us, we're really picky. I'm one of those people, and I think this is just a whole new look to the truck. You're probably already aware of the functionality of these headlights over the OEM halogen ones, but just in case you aren't or don't feel like clicking on another video, I'll show you some of the things they do. Startup feature, so if you lock the truck and remote start it, you'll see that they do like a Bugatti style projector startup display, and they'll light up from the top to the bottom and then shut off. Now I'm going to turn the truck on so you can see what the daytime running lights look like. They're very bright. It makes it a lot easier to see the truck coming down the road. A lot like the OEM lights, just a little different. And lastly, I'll show you what the turn signal looks like in sequential mode. Now you can turn this off. You can just unplug one connector and it will flash like a regular turn signal rather than running from left to right like it is now. Alright guys, that's going to do it. I hope this video helps you go into this a little more confidently if you're looking at swapping your front end out. Now you know what parts you need. And like I said before, I'll put all the links in the description below, whether it's a part number or a link to these sick garage lights. Either way, both of those things will be in the description. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Instagram at _Alex Schuler. That's _ALEXSCHULER. Or feel free to email me at evolvedcomponents@gmail.com. That's EVOLVEDCOMPONENTS@gmail.com. Thank you guys. Peace out.